definition of success for most people is giving and receiving as much love as you can in your lifetime.
Wow.
It's, we have our ego voice in the head that is the thing that's always talking to you and trying to tell you that you're wrong. The ego voice is like fear or flight. And when people applaud you or give you positive feedback, you care more about what they're saying than your own inner self. When you're doing your purpose and passion in the purest way possible, they better just get out of the way, because it's clear to everyone around you that your intent and your purpose is right. Now, Dr. Alison, I'm wondering, having done podcasting as long as you have, first of all, I'm glad that you set this up, but what's the greatest awareness that you've taken away from this, podcasting journey that you've been on so far? And I know it probably changes daily, but where are you at today?
Hey everyone, do me a quick favor and double check that you are a follower or subscriber wherever you listen to the show. I'd be unconditionally grateful. Every new follower, listener, and subscriber helps us keep creating content we love and that you enjoy. It's the best way to ensure you never miss one of my own conversations. You are on the Sun Journey with us, and thank you for that. I am your host, Dr. Alison, and today is going to be an extremely inspiring podcast. And I would like to welcome to the show Robin Toft. She is the CEO of CureBound. Robin, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I can't wait to speak with you, Alison.
I've seen pictures, and I would love for you to, before we kind of move on with the podcast, because I just want to give credit where credit is due. So please tell us a little bit about CureBound.
Oh my gosh. So 5 months ago, I was serving on a board, and I was very happy on a nonprofit board, and all of a sudden our CEO resigned. So I said, choose me. And so I have been the CEO of CureBound for 5 months. And when I joined, we did not have concert talent identified. So what CureBound is a community-powered cancer research accelerator. We work with the community to raise money to accelerate cancer research as fast as we can to get products into the market more quickly, because certainly there's a deficit in federal funding. So we just take it into our own hands and we say, within our region, we will just solve this, and then we'll make this ecosystem model that can be transportable to other regions. And I'm here in San Diego, California. We have an incredible cancer research hub here. And so it's been working seamlessly. And again, I was on the board for a few years. But what you're speaking about is every year we have 2 big events. One is a bike, walk, run, spin. That's pretty traditional. The other one is a huge concert. And we've been doing this now for 4 years. We formed CureBound in 2021. And first we had Alicia Keys, then we had Ed Sheeran. Last year we had Elton John, and we thought we couldn't top that. It was an incredible concert, and everyone had the time of their life, and I still think of it as one of the highlights of my life. But this year we had Pink, and everyone to a person said this was the best concert they had ever seen in their life. I mean, there were 30,000 people there, and I keep getting this feedback. And I think what it was is I've never spoken to an audience of 30,000 people. And I had the opportunity to go out and introduce Pink and speak for 5 to 10 minutes to introduce why we do what we do. But I started with a raise the lights moment, which was, if you've ever had cancer and you're a survivor or battling now, would you please stand up and light up your phone? And I was shocked as I stood there at the end of the runway. We had the G stage with the runway at the end. I had to walk the whole runway to get out there. That about half the audience stood up. And then when I said, if you've ever loved someone with cancer, would you light up your phones and join us? The other half stood up. And there is drone footage from the sky and from the stadium that it's just this incredible. And I said, thank you for being the light you want to see in the world right now, San Diego. And it was like an incredible explosion of applause. And I think people really need this right now to know that we can make a difference in the world, and that we can, with community, working together, that we actually can cure cancer. And one of the things I said in this talk is we have everything we need right now to cure cancer. and the missing element is the fuel to drive the car faster on the road to the cures. So it was a remarkable experience on every level, and Pink was through the roof. If you've ever seen Pink, she does this flying show where no matter what seat you have in the stadium, she flies over to you at the finale, and she's up there and she's singing So What, if you know her tune, and it is so powerful. And then all the confetti goes off and the fireworks, and it's the biggest high. So thank you, Alison, for allowing me to speak about it.
Oh my gosh, and absolutely. And I've had the great pleasure of seeing her here in Dallas. And you're absolutely right. I mean, she is acrobatic, all up in the air. I mean, it is phenomenal. Was there any point that she asked you to join her to go fly around the stadium?
I loved it because my aunt ran away with the circus when she was 16 and was in the high flying trapeze act for 20 years. So I grew up watching this, and now she lives in a retirement place in Florida. So it's really funny. They put her pictures in the paper. But I forgot to mention on the Pink concert, we actually raised over $8 million, 8.25 so far and counting. So it'll probably 9 or 10 by the time all the proceeds come in. So that is a lot in one night for a nonprofit event. I think there are very few nonprofits that can claim that type of fundraising, and I'm very proud to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. And CureBound isn't just a passion from a business perspective or a nonprofit. It has also touched your life as well. And so during our podcast, we will definitely talk more about that, because your cancer diagnosis affected you in many different ways, negatively and positively. And there is something that I will bring up during our podcast that I cannot get out of my mind. Like, it has stayed with me since you and I spoke as we were talking about our episode together. So I will make sure that I bring that up for sure if you don't. But thank you very much for setting the stage, because I wanted to give you the moment, because it just was so exciting. I loved seeing the pictures. I felt like I was there in spirit with you and with the audience that got to experience that. So really, congratulations. It just absolutely amazing.
Thanks. Well, what you do is more important, but you are speaking to the world right now.
Well, thank you. Thank you. That does mean a lot. Well, as I love to start every podcast with, is the unword effect. And I asked you to think of your words, and you really loved going through this process. And for your words, it wasn't even really necessarily about the words. They were so in depth and really ingrained really with who you are and your whole experience. I mean, you've held very high C-suite level positions before even coming to CureBound. And so we'll definitely allow you to talk about that journey too. When I asked you to think about your unwords, one, let's first talk about what your process was like.
You know, it's kind of a hard assignment. It's funny, I posed it to a few people on the beach walk with dogs this morning, and they were just, blank about how they would do this. But what I thought about is what I absolutely am.
Wow, great way.
And then I found how to express that in an unword. So the words that I felt I absolutely am all the time are fearless, committed, free, and wide open. Like, those were some descriptors of self. And then I kind of reversed them. And just to give you the taste of my unwords, for fearless, I came up with I'm unafraid. And for committed, I am completely unwavering in my beliefs, in my purpose. And for free and wide open, I used untethered. Right? So there's always an unword, I think, for the descriptors of self.
Yeah, I love the way you did that, because some would either take everyone has their different approach, which is why I love to ask the question. And what was interesting is how you used an unword and then described sort of a meaning to it, where I've had some that have just used the word where they were afraid, and then they just put the to talk about how they are no longer, they're unafraid now. So I thought that was a very unique approach that you took to it. So thank you for sharing. Your first word was unafraid. When you were sort of thinking about during your process, one, I'd love for you to talk about what unafraid really means to you, and if there was something specific to shed some light of why that particular word was one that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, so I think that I'm a human. It's hard to be a human being, but one of my human characteristics is it's really hard. Is that I am a huge risk taker. And I didn't even perceive how significant my risk-taking behavior could be. But to me, it's not risk. It's actually listening to the inner voice that we all have and actually honoring it instead of overthinking it and over-processing it and all that. When the message comes in, I do it. And I think that's a very unusual way of being.
Yes.
People have been watching me ever since I was a kid and saying, wow, she seems kind of erratic. Like, we don't really know why she's doing what she's doing. And just to use case in point, I used to be this little kid laying on the front lawn looking at clouds going, this is not, I was born in the wrong place. So once I kind of made my way to California, I was living in Michigan at the time, and saw San Diego, I thought, well, this is where I'm going to be living. So I came back and went to college and then put everything in the red convertible and left and went there. But my whole life has been like that. I make moves like so easily, both with respect to where I live, careers. I've actually had 4 careers based on one college credential. That is kind of fascinating. With money, my financial services person says to me, I wish you would teach a class on risk-taking, because you're a thoughtful risk-taker, but
yes.
You know when. On selling my company even, I sold my company. I sometimes say it's like divine timing, but it really wasn't. It was right before the pandemic. I had built and I sold an executive search firm that we can talk about later. But the divine knowing came in. I had just hired a CEO and a CFO, and I was intentional on keeping it going for a while, and I was just going to go on the podium and continue to build books and write books, build the brand. And I just knew one day, I came into them and I said, we're going to sell the company now. I need to sell the company. And, they fared well in the transaction, but, you have to listen to the inner voice. And that's the hardest thing I've learned, that is your soul speaking. It's, we have our ego voice in the head that is the thing that's always talking to you and trying to tell you that you're wrong. The ego voice is like fear or flight.
Yes.
And the intuition is kind of the voice of purpose and why you're here and what is moving you towards things that could be very good for you, but most people discount it. So I've been unafraid about following my inner knowing, if you will.
Yeah, I was hoping you were going to bring that up, because what was sort of in the back of my head when you and I spoke before this podcast, that during your childhood, you said that you were afraid, and then as you got older and had more confidence in your life and who you are, that became less and less and unafraid. And the reason why that really struck with me is because I had a very similar experience, I would say, with that word. It probably took me into my older adult years where I became more unafraid, because I think my childhood dictated things for me, or I learned to be unafraid. Does that
Yeah,
somewhat resonate with you a bit?
Yep. As soon as you're born, you get dropped in and programmed. Like a baby is completely unprogrammed, and we overlayer the expectations of society and what our parents teach us onto this little child. And so you do grow up with a lot of programming that people have given you. And I think as you learn to trust yourself and become a more authentic version of yourself, it's a lot easier to know what's right for you. And that sometimes takes, the hero's journey of going out on your own. And I think every 7 years or so we have a new hero's journey. So we just have to continually learn and grow into ourselves and override the fear voice in our heads, like the fear or flight voice, which is sometimes the programmed voice.
Was there a point in your leadership where that really spoke to you in that example?
Yeah, I've done a lot of work at undoing the programming, and there's many ways that you can approach that. But suffice it to say, I've been working on it for a long time. And after I sold my company, was the first time I really practiced with it really hard. So I grew up being very externally identified. I'm sure some of you can relate to that. And performing on a stage, and when people applaud you or give you positive feedback, you care more about what they're saying than your own inner self. And so because I had a career, speaking of the 4 careers, I did 10 years in a lab, 10 years in sales roles of the highest level. Everywhere I went, I was always the top performer, which shows you, now I always have to be the best.
Yes.
Achiever mind share. Okay, so 10 years of that, 10 years of building and selling a search firm, when finally I could practice. Because when you're in a sales role, this external identification force is pretty high because you're getting rewarded for this behavior. And people are applauding you, going, wow, do more of that, continue to perform at this high level. So I sell the company, and now I've unprogrammed a lot of this fear of, what other people think, or, and I remember I own this company, and all these people came here because they want to have this remarkable career experience of working at what I perceive to be the best company I could ever build. I wanted to build someplace that I would love to work at, and everyone who came there for mission, purpose, and passion. And I was a mission-driven, people-first leader in this executive search firm. So I decided I was just going to show up after the sale and just be purely in the love soul side of me, not the fear and flight side, not the ego side that most people show up at, and just give out pure love. Just be there and just beam it out at them. And when they come to me afraid, or people are disagreeing in a meeting, because that's usually, I would say to myself, what are they afraid of, And I would try to undo the fear. When you show up like that, what I have since learned, and now it's been, 2019, 7 or 8 years I've been operating this way, the way people respond to you is so much better, right? Because there's no fear of competition, there's no fear, but you actually feel like your company will fail if you are trying to be too kind, approachable, loving, all of that. So I think that this love in the workplace is wildly understated, because just giving out positive intention, beautiful listening, and trying not to respond through your ego, voice, and mind is a really good leadership characteristic. It's a remarkable thing to work on, but in order to do it, you have to unwire some of your learnings. And that's a journey that I hope everyone is willing to take.
Let me ask you this, because that point is so great, and I didn't know where it would possibly come up. But I lead in a very similar manner. And I think that's where you and I really sort of bonded and just have been having a great time getting to know one another through this great process of the podcast. But what would you say to those? Because, you're talking about women, C-suite women, and they feel, some that are out there feel like they have to have this very we'll say sort of masculine, right? So they can play in masculine behavior, be this certain way, where you're saying love and compassion. You are a very successful, not only businesswoman, but in corporations as well. What would you say to those women who are trying to sort of hide that love and compassion in leadership because they feel that it's going to come across as being soft or not serious?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to take you back to a class I took called Success Intelligence by Dr. Robert Holden out of the UK, who has become one of my great teachers. He wrote a book called Authentic Success. And I think we all need to drill down on what is success, actually. What is success? So you may perceive yourself to be successful, but I went through this class. There were about 30 people in the class, and every day drilling down, what is success? What is success? What is success? And I realized that what is your own unique success formula? What do you believe is successful? And I had been through a divorce not too long before that. And I realized that being married is part of my success formula. Like, there's so many things that are in your success formula. Then you kind of unwind the whole thing and realize, and almost everyone ended up at the same, this is a little bit of a spoiler alert, but the same outcome, which was the definition of a success for most people is giving and receiving as much love as you can in your lifetime.
Wow.
It's crazy, right? Once you undo it. So you can do that in the workplace. You should do that in the workplace. That is success. You can do it in any setting, in any job, in anything, and you will be more successful and because when you're on your deathbed, no one talks about any amount of money or anything they've made. Right. They talk about, and what I have since learned, this is so cool, the evolution, giving and receiving as much love. So I operate that way. No matter what I'm doing, no matter what meeting I'm in, no matter where things are going, board meeting, you name it, I am showing up in a way that I want to learn, feel, believe, and know that each person feels valued. Now I'm in this, the whole purpose of life is relationships and experiences framework, which...
Absolutely. And
again, that's all in the workplace. I often say to the people that work for me, I go, you don't even know this yet, but the best part about work, right, it is your people that you get to work amongst. I know that Absolutely. Because I tried to rewire and I've come back. And the reason you're here in any workplace is not to jockey your way to the top and have a hierarchical perspective on everything. And to maybe make more money than others. It's to actually enjoy the work that you do amongst the people. So I think it does take a little bit of a non-hierarchical mind share to actually show up in a way where you know that you're there for them and they're there for you, and we're just all one big happy team trying to do something meaningful and important. It does not take away the intensity of the execution of what you're trying to do, but it works so much better.
100%. I'm really happy that that you really broke that down, because if I think my audience could hear that from anybody, I think it's from you, just because of your career, your level, what you have achieved. I had another lady on the show earlier on, and I just felt the same way. I mean, she's held some very high C-level roles. She's worked in male dominating, we'll say, type industries, and she has the same sort of love and compassion. Like, I didn't know if I would actually meet someone just as pure, but you have definitely fit that without a doubt. And I think it's because, to your point earlier, this just didn't happen overnight. There's a ton of unprogramming that has to go to where you're realizing, man, I really do need to let go of that belief is untrue, or this situation was untrue, and realize that you can function and be in a much more loving and peaceful place and still make the kind of money you want to make, or still make the impact that you want. Right.
More money. You know, one of the easiest ways, if just looking for one little thing to do differently in the workplace to get here, is just try to listen more and perceive everybody with a what are they afraid of when they're jockeying for a position in a meeting, or over talking or over sharing, or what or trying to position themselves. And so people always say to me, what about these mean women, the ones who are elbowing their way to the top and stuff? And I'm like, well, first of all, there's just as many men that do that, way more, because it's 90% men at the very top. But secondly, when I operate this way, they cannot shake me. So this comes with the unwavering. They just kind of bounce off of me. Like, I don't even worry about them, because when you're doing your purpose and passion in the purest way possible, they better just get out of the way, because it's clear to everyone around you that your intent and your purpose is right. Now, if it's not, and you're in a company that condones that behavior, your opportunity is to leave. If you really can't fix it, obviously we try to influence and change and fix a culture.
Of course.
And I'm going to say that as someone who ran an executive search firm for CEOs and board members, which is all I placed for 10 years in the life sciences, which is pharma, biotech, diagnostics, and devices, this biotech industry. I also was on the front edge of the Women on Boards revolution, so I know definitively unlimited numbers of executive women, and I've worked with hundreds, if not thousands, of companies, as compared to if I were just one executive having one career experience. I have seen, the top tier talent. It's my job to find them and to integrate them into their next opportunities. And, the way that they're perceived, the reference checking that we do, that to hear from people who work with them and for them, is the thing that dictates. I just know, because I just came into CureBound and built my whole team within the same 4 months that I've been here creating this new concert. And, I've got a new team come together, and I had to go out there and search and engage a search firm for it. And it's not easy to identify people with these characteristics, but it's worthy, to build a company correctly. So again, the reason I know, and we were just speaking about, if you're in a company that is allowing this behavior, people call me all the time and tell me these stories, and at the end, I'm like, have you told them? Do they know? Have you spoken to the CEO and the head of HR, and do they know that this is going on and they still can't fix it? Then your only opportunity is they've been advised, you have shared, and your opportunity is to potentially resign. But at least they'll be informed. But if you leave without telling them, that's really not courageous. Yeah. You should really try to influence a culture. And I
think that's, I appreciate that, because I think that level of honesty and goes a long way. Now, the company may be upset at you, whatever the case, but you can't control someone else's reaction to what you're saying.
How I learned it, Alison. This was crazy.
Please.
I was 30 years old, and I had my first VP level role, for which I was moved from. I was living in North Carolina, and I got recruited to the San Francisco Bay Area as head of sales and marketing for a biotech startup. And really, I had never led marketing, so I'm reading the marketing MBA thing on the side and trying to learn all this. Fantastic. So anyway, I get there.
How to be executive in 101 days.
And the CEO had a revolving door. Here, remember, I'm 30 years old. He had a revolving door of senior talent. And he would hire people smarter than him, but he wouldn't let them make any decisions. And they would one by one resign. And I'm watching this, and after about 2 years of this, he and I were in a meeting, and he was conflicted with me on something that he knew nothing about. By the way, I was the head of commercial and sales and marketing. And I just sat there and I said, well, we're obviously on two different pages. I'm going to have to resign. So I left, but they wouldn't let me take anything out of my office, because they were still trying to save me because I was a good employee. And after a while, I got a call from the chairman of the board, and he said, I really want you to speak to you. And the CEO had insulated us all from the board. So I came in, and he said, what's going on? And I said, this isn't about me. This is about everybody else. I just want to let you know what's going on. That all of these people keep leaving. He wants yes people all around him, not people who speak up and tell truth, right? And that's not going to work for me, because we're never going to get there. We're not going to make this happen. It's all just a big. And he said, well, we've heard about this, and we're actually thinking about replacing him. If I take that role, will you stay? And I said, well, let me know if you end up doing that, because that would be different. This guy was a really high-flying guy in the community and in San Francisco. And they actually did that. So I forced the CEO's exit as a newly hired head of sales and marketing. He did not take that very easily, but he was gone. And then I came back for 3 years. And so I tried to resign, but I actually used my voice for good. And in that moment, I knew that you have to tell them. Like, you have to tell them and give them a chance to course correct, because sometimes, even at CEO level, they don't know. And the CEO reports to the board. So that's all really imperative, actually, that you talk directly to the board. So if the CEO can't listen, that is your opportunity, if you're an executive, to actually, and it's kind of a career defining one, because if it doesn't work, and they invited me, I did not go directly. But that's the other alternative. So I would say, if you're really passionate about this company, wherever you work, do not leave lightly. Make sure they know, and try to save. Solve.
That is fantastic. That is fantastic advice. I had a CEO. I had a Crystal Zell on the show, and she was a former CEO of Tonal. And she spoke very, she did find a different scenario, but she did find at a moment that she felt that she's achieved what she could achieve, and wanted to make sure she left the company even better where she found it. And she took the steps to, speak to the board, let them know, her reasonings and why. And that transition was, really great and smooth. And, they, of course, weren't happy. They did not want her to leave, but just an example of just leaving, with respect.
Yes, on good terms. You want to leave on good terms, having done everything you could. So remember always that line, it's not about me. It's about everyone else here. That is the most powerful line you can possibly ever hear, because if you're speaking on behalf of the company, sometimes I see these situations where people are not very some cultures are not good with diversity, or specifically in empowering women to rise in the ranks and things like that. And it's very demoralizing for others that are those people. Sure. And those are opportunities. The companies can launch surveys and see how everyone really feels. And there's so many things that could be done before you leave. But you can at least get the conversations going. And you shouldn't be afraid. If you're a person of value, they're going to listen to you.
Yes. Yeah. No, I thank you so much, Robin. I do appreciate you talking about that, because I think that is important advice very important the higher you go up in a company, but that's still advice for anyone that is within the organization, to really think about what it is you're recommending for them to do. And if they feel they do need to leave, for selfish reasons, that's fine. But you're still letting the company know and doing as you're advising. And I think that's excellent. So thank you for sharing that. Well, this next one, I don't know what other word it could be, but unwavering, there is no doubt in my mind. And I don't know where that word just kind of peaked in your head in saying, this is my word, but I could see it not only maybe in childhood, all the way to where you are today as the CEO of CureBound. So please talk to us a bit about that word, and if there's an example that you could shed some light on it of really how that word and came up for you, and in what ways it really represents you.
Yeah, so great question. So unwavering to me is like there's three B's underneath that. So the first one is my brand. I am unwavering with that. We'll come back to that. The second one is my beliefs. What do I stand for? And you really have to stand for something or you're nobody. And the last one I would say is a big life. So I've always been committed to the big life. We'll start with the last one first, in the sense that, again, growing up, I was like, I'm going to live everywhere and do everything. I just knew I was poised for a big life. And there were certain points in my life where I just tried to have a smaller life. And when I was married, you be famous, I'm not going to be, and all that. But no, if you are positioning for a big life and you really need a big life, I talk with a lot of my single girlfriends about this. I just had the leading spiritual psychologist from Denmark staying with me, and she's living a big life. She tried to live a small life within a certain construct, but now she's out there on the world stage. Some of us are meant to have a big bright light in this world, and so I am committed and unwavering around at the big life and going back into the global world and making a big difference, even though I've tried to pull back a few times. Okay, so let's go back to brand. Personal brand. So I think the personal brand is a really important and imperative thing about executives. And I think that goes hand in hand with beliefs. So obviously you have a professional presentation, but if you were to look at, for instance, any social media site, I encourage you to look at my LinkedIn. My brand is front and center, and I stand for beliefs, two things, and everything I do is organized around those two things. And one of them is elevating women, because women are underserved by the world and for the world. Men are in 90% of the positions of power and authority, and women have been forever, really trying to be equal. I don't want women above men. I want women and men working hand in hand to build the best and strongest, world.
Absolutely.
So empowerment of women and elevation of women and everything that pertains to that, their health, their reproductive rights, their everything women. And the other thing is changing the way cancer is treated in my lifetime. And, that's a big brand element for me. And it always has been. I've worked in that industry forever and ever, really trying to do personalized medicine, so that we started that in HIV and AIDS, and it worked. Like when someone has HIV back in the 80s during the pandemic or the crisis, getting them on the right drugs is the thing that matters. So you have to test them. When they fail therapy, their viral load goes up again. We knew that would work for cancer, that it would be a combination therapy that you need for cancer, and that you would have to test that specific cancer. So precision medicine has been an undercurrent across all disease states, but cancer was very personally important to me because I got it mid-career. I was out on this treadmill of overachieving and running really fast and hard against all goals. So I told you I was this big, huge sales star. And yes. I was working for a big global company, and I was flying to Europe every 2 weeks. I got my senior vice president for Roche, which is a big global pharma company, but I was on the diagnostic side. I don't like drugs. Diagnostics, let's get the people on the right drugs and minimize drugs and maximize outcomes.
Yes.
And I got sick on a plane on the way to Europe. And never been sicker in my life. I would not recommend. Nobody can get into the restroom the whole time you're sick. And you get there, and I went on a road show for a week, and I was never sicker in my life. I couldn't eat. I didn't know what was wrong. And so, but I'm superhuman. And what we do as oftentimes really strong people override symptoms and act like it's no big deal. But certainly I wasn't going to go to an emergency room in Europe while I'm working with my company, and we're on this little team doing a road show around Europe. So I called my husband back home in the U.S. and I said, in San Francisco, I'm really sick, so make me an appointment and I'll go in when I get back. And so I came home, but I'd run 6 miles the day before, so I felt like $1 million. But no, I call him and go, cancel the appointment. I'm fine, right? Oh yeah. So I get home and I end up in the emergency room with really bad pain in my stomach, and turns out that they walked out of the room and they go, well, we think it's maybe a parasite because you'd been on this camping trip before you left, so maybe that. But maybe you should go up the road to another hospital and get an MRI. And when they came in and showed me the MRI, the light stopped here, like halfway down my body, like right here. There was no light, so there was like nothing could get through. So I had an obstruction and I had colon cancer at the age of 45. And trust me, it's not in my family. I was very physically healthy, like super physically healthy. But I wouldn't say that my mind was healthy, and probably my spirit wasn't healthy either. And that's, I immediately, in the emergency room, senior vice president, traveling the world, doing my thing, knew I was going to sell my house in the San Francisco Bay Area and quit my job immediately. And because I knew, and this is the weirdest thing, that I had made myself sick. Now, there's this whole school of thought.
This is the part right here. Here, when you told me, when we talked, and you said, and please let me know if I am not saying this the way that you said it, but when you said to me, I feel like I gave myself cancer.
Truth.
It literally was like, what are you talking about? Like,
yeah, the world
with all due respect, I want you on the show, but what the hell are you talking about?
So, for everyone's benefit, we have an immune system. So remember, I've been in this field for a long time. Our immune system's role, we all get a lot of mutations every day, is to take those mutations out and correct them. But when you put a lot of stress on yourself, you compromise your immune system, and it's not operating at peak, and it's not able to do that. And so when you live and work under constant stress, I always knew I was running on the treadmill. I was cortisol, constant floods into the body. I was not eating well or healthily while I was on the road, and this went on for years, for like 25 years in my corporate career. And I knew it was dangerous. And then I ended up in the ER with internalized stress, which is also called cancer. So I think that so many of us, so again, having worked around and with cancer for years and years and years, so many times someone has a super stressful experience. It's not always, but most times, where something really bad happens to a family member or someone else, and you're trying to take care of all of that, and all of a sudden you have cancer. And it's because you have done the complete opposite of what you should have done when you were caring for a family member or whatever. You should be amping up your relaxation ability, your meditation, your peaceful living, your yoga, your being with your dogs, you're walking on the beach. Like, those things are life-saving. But we do the absolute other. We start not eating right, not sleeping, staying up 24/7, working our asses off, to kind of compromise. And it is a very, very dangerous thing. Nobody wants to believe that they can cause their own cancer. And I will tell you for sure you can. And you can also heal your own cancer. So two or three of my favorite books, I'll give you my top two. The first one is called Cured. And underneath the subtitle is A Method for Boosting Your Immune System. And this is the way every single one of us should live every day. It was written by a doctor who took stage 4 cancer patients, and yes, you can recover, and said, what did they all commonly do? How did they all commonly revise their life? And it's every single thing that you do. Eat right, exercise, cut out all sugar, but those sound very mechanical. So everything that I naturally did, climb a mountain every day, become more peaceful, learn how to meditate, which I always thought I could never meditate, but I can now do it for like 10 minutes a day because I'm such a driven human. Yoga. So yoga, I do yoga every single day. People are like, what? I go, no, I get up at 4:30. I read 5 uplifting books that kind of center me on the day. Then I go and do 45 minutes of yoga. And then I take my dogs to the beach, and then it's 7:30, in the morning. So I've had 3 hours of complete me time zen. And I know many of you have children, that's near to impossible, but organize your life in a way where you are building the spa into your day, because that will save your life. And living in a high intensity way is dangerous. So you have to calm yourself down. I have a rock in my car that says breathe on it. So every time I get in my car, I hold it in my hands as I'm driving, and I breathe. But breathing is incredibly healthy. But for those of us who say, when I first started working with one of my coaches, I said, this is after the complete meltdown, the cancer, the divorce, all. I said, I just want to learn how to be in joy every day. Yeah. And he just started laughing because, not on the weekend, not just on the weekends. That's what I said to him. He goes, because that's a hard journey to learn how to feel joyful and present and happy at all times, not just when you allow yourself to.
Robin, let me ask you this question, because I think this is a great time to ask this. It takes sometimes something like, we'll say cancer in your, you are the third guest of mine. Two of the guests I previously had on the show were both diagnosed a month apart from each other, a different type of cancer, but cancer, and then you. And then it for those individuals, it took that time for them to finally take a step back and reflect, like, what the hell am I doing? And then we decide, okay, something really traumatic all of a sudden hit us in the head, because, we're not hearing these messages that maybe were along the way until something bigger had to maybe happen with us. Was that sort of a similar experience for you, where it took this moment, or were you maybe trying to do this before, but then your messaging got really loud and you were like, I need to now obviously change huge areas of my life?
Yeah, I think I made dramatic changes when I had cancer, but that's not to say I didn't get, that's when I built a company of my own so I could control the stress level. People always say, isn't it more stressful to be a CEO of your own company? I go, no, because I control every choice. And I also built it in my area of purpose and passion as compared to doing someone else's. I think it is stressful kind of working on someone else's program sometimes if you don't agree with it 100%. But I would say it's hard because we all know, I think everybody's probably listening to this and resonating with it, but I can't stop because I...
Right. Or I don't have time. I don't have time, Robin. I don't have time. There's no way.
So we're just waiting to hit the wall, right? Before we will take the warning. So exactly. I would say register the warning, and if I could do one thing for all of you, I would say either build a big walk into every single day. Just walk. Walking in nature is really calming. If you can't do that, build in a little yoga in the dark. Like seriously something that can calm you and that you can breathe through. Because without having any outlets for this, and I know you're like, I don't have any time, there's no way in the world you have to carve it out. I had someone who worked for me that would put thinking time on her calendar, and I freaking loved it. I'm like, oh, that's fantastic. She's got thinking time. I love that. But, that could as easily be thinking time while you're walking. And you have to value yourself enough to know that that's okay. Loving self has actually been the journey, and we all say that in California. You're like, what the hell does that mean? It actually means honoring this authentic human that you are that has unique purpose and passion. So let's come back to beliefs and unwavering and commitment. We all have a very unique purpose and passion. And I think that what happens sometimes is we have all these masks on, and we have to kind of become more us and start taking them off. And with each successive life event that happens, be it something that happens to someone around you or yourself, or you get more and more awarenesses and say, I'm going to become more me. I'm just going to let go of some of this stuff. So, when you're really living on purpose, completely on purpose, with passion, everything is very straightforward. Like, you don't have to be impressing anyone. You don't have to be, your purpose is clear. It is unwavering, and people admire you for it. The worst thing to me in the world is people that don't take a stand on anything. And I actually know some people like this. I'm like, what do you believe in? Like, they're trying to find their next way in their life and in their career. And I'm like, if we knew what you love, what is your passion, and you marry that with what you do really, really well, and what you're passionate about should be what you spend your life doing. And they'll all say, but you can't make enough money at doing that. Like, so let's use my ex-husband. He wanted to be a wildlife photographer, and he didn't know anything about it. But like, if that's what he's passionate about, and he's really good at it, he can make money at it. And so we figured that out. But like, using the cop out of you can't make any money doing what you love, or there's too many wildlife photographers, or too many artists, or whatever. You can make money at anything you set your mind to if it's your purpose and your passion and you love it. And besides, money's not the main thing here. Survival is. But like, isn't it about relationships and experiences really in the end? So, my life journey has been away from money to absolute abundance, like in the way that, money is just a form of energy. Yes. And I wish we all knew this. It's one of the many forms of energy. Love, light, healing, money, they're all just things. Yes, it's the one that we value the most. If you think about it, it was just like shells that they used to trade on the beach, and now it looks like little pieces of paper. But it's all a false construct, really, in the end. But when you do your purpose with passion, money will follow. And that's a big trust fall. That people don't believe that's going to work.
They don't believe that's work, and they feel that is very kind of woo-woo.
Totally.
Because what we're talking about is, in business of scaling and doing this and expanding and I want to be global and all of this, which is all great. But in understanding that's why I felt you, Robin, to be so much, and I don't define this for any of my guests that come on, because I want them to tell me why they feel that they're unconventionally excellent. And that to hear you speak so clearly and passionately just about love and compassion, and that you can lead in that way and still scale and build and expand and all of that all together is just a huge lesson learned that I hope people take from this podcast today.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the post-cancer moment, because I think that's when I created an executive search firm. I knew nothing about executive search, but I did it this way. And I wrote a book called We Can for Women, and then there's a workbook that goes with it. But it's on this, how do you find because people struggle with this. What is my purpose, right? So
I did. I struggled with my purpose and passion.
Totally.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, totally get it.
I'm like, I'm really, really good at, so this is blank. Let's do that for you and for all of us. I was really, really good at sales. I love talking about science. Okay? And what else did I really, really, really enjoy is the people. And I knew that in order to get all these great companies done, it was all about the people. So I thought, if I can just talk about science and move all the people around, then I can change cancer care in my lifetime. That's a great premise. And then I thought, well, everybody hates all these executive search firms. I knew nothing about it, like zero, which is actually a better way of going about it. I said, I just love talking about science and people, and I'm going to move them around. So I came at it from a very unconventional way, and people loved it because I was an industry expert. And so I would charge you with, and the revenue on that company went from 0 to 10 million within 10 years, and I sold it. So that's allowed me to now do my next purpose and passion, which is, giving back for the rest of my life. But I would tell you that finding what you're really, really good at and marrying it with something you love is bound to be successful, and we're afraid to do it.
Yeah, yeah, and I will tell you, it's interesting because I never thought in a million. I love talking to people, as you probably realized, but I never thought in a million years I would ever do a podcast or a podcast even like this. And I'm really I knew nothing about it, nothing,
Right.
zero. I was just like, hey, let's get a headset, let's see who will come on, we'll talk. Yeah. But I'm glad I didn't really think about really truly what goes into it, because I probably would have been like, oh Lord, I'm never doing this. It's like running two companies at the same time. But I'm thrilled, and I'm so happy because it just has brought so much joy to me. There's a huge educational piece. I get to meet amazing people like you, which I cannot wait when I come to San Diego for us to get together and have lunch. Or a glass of wine, whatever. But it's given me that wonderful privilege to be able to showcase leaders like yourself, and I just absolutely love it. And I have so much passion for it. I get up early in the morning just because I'm like, I have a podcast today. This is just amazing. So you just saying that, I completely understand.
It's so true. And I guess I had this great luxury moment where I was unemployed intentionally. I had cut my big job off and sitting there going, I don't even care if I ever work again. But then I knew that I am born, I think a lot of us, this whole concept of retirement, rewirement, whatever you want to call it, it's wrong. We are living so much longer than our predecessor generations. And this whole, I'm going to have fun when I'm 65 thing is ridiculous, because you can have fun right now. If you're doing your life right, you're working in your purpose and passion, and you have to find your way to not be afraid to make that break and bet on whatever it is. And some of the easiest way I find to find what you really love, if you've really gone blank on it because you're so far immersed in your professional corporate life, is just go back to what you loved when you were a kid. Those things are probably your real true loves. We're really most passionate about things before we're even a teenager. So, really trace it back and really try to reclaim a lot of that back into your life. And as you build that back in, which is in part of my later years, I just became an artist again. And I smashed that down for like 50 years going, I can't be an artist. You can't make any money at that. Which is old programming, right?
Yes.
So I took a little class and I went, holy smokes, I actually have talent. But you would never know what's going to come full circle in your life. So that's a good way to kind of find what your true love areas are. And some of us know them very intimately, and yet we find there's no way to cross from here to there. And I challenge you with that today.
Yeah, beautiful, Robin. That's actually really, really beautiful. I want to make sure we talk about this one as well. I had a guest on who used this word, and her explanation of it was really beautiful, and that was untethered. That can be a really, really big word. And I love for you, again, to talk about what that word really means to you, and an example, possibly. I don't know if it fits into a particular topic that when you're done with that, I do have the big question that I definitely want to make sure we save time for. So please tell us about Untethered.
Yeah, so to me, I have always been untethered, but I'm particularly way now, just this whole free and open concept, and it's with respect to possibilities and chapters. I've had so many chapters, and sometimes women come to me and they're like mid-career, like in their 50s, and somehow their whole life just exploded, and that's normal, FYI. But I say, the next 10 years are going to be amazing. You don't even know what's going to happen next. And so wide open for possibilities, new chapters, and partnerships of every way, shape, and form is how I roll. And I think I have a unique opportunity now. All right. I have a unique opportunity. That. I actually had no children by choice, which I think may be where you were going with our.
It's exactly where I was going, because I do not have any children. I remember a conversation that I had across the dinner table with my mom, and she was just like, "Are you seriously not going to have children?" I never, I love kids, and then I like to, I'm a great aunt. Oh my gosh, my wife and I are like amazing aunts, and then we go, here you go, you can have them back. And you and I shared this conversation where, yes, I was very driven in my career and what I wanted to do, and I never had this biological clock that many of my friends, many of my sorority sisters back in college had, and I never, my sister and brother have children. It just was not in my mind or my DNA at any point.
So me either. And Alison, I could say exactly that same thing. The clock never went off. I never missed them. I was having this incredibly glorious life. I married the wildlife photographer guy, and he was kind of like a big kid, and we did the world, and we used to say, wow, we're having such an experience with life, but we wouldn't have been able to and he would have probably liked to have kids. But I thought I'd be married for life too. So we had no kids, and I never missed it, even for a minute, which is weird. And again, now I feel like the whole world are my children. Because that's the way I've walked through the world and been a mentor and a leader to so many. So I've never missed it. And I have a lot of women that surround me who lost their moms to cancer. And I realize now, because I feel like a mom to them somehow. So that's cool. So I have unlimited, I think you get to choose your soul family as you go through life. And these may or may not be people you're related to. And that's a really strong way of walking through the world. But so no kids. So untethered, no, I have no kids. And I have no husband. I had him for 30 years, but I didn't see that it was going to end. I really didn't. It was like an unintentional, we had a great relationship, but a lot of stuff happened, and he did not weather it well. And then one day he just decided he didn't want to be married, and I'm like, wow, that's so shocking to me. So it was I call it, an unexpected divorce, and yet, and it really rocked my world. But here I am as this incredibly, driven, give back, change the world sort of woman who has nothing but possibility, new chapters and partnerships ahead. And I'm having a blast. Like, this is the best time of my life. I've been divorced now 10 years, and I can believe it. And everything has shifted. Like, the things I didn't know that could happen. I didn't know my company was saleable, and I sold it like 3 years later after we got divorced. And it has created this whole new trajectory of my life wherein, and a lot of you may run small companies and not think they're sellable, but I brought in the right experts and we figured it out, and it was. So don't discount that. I used to think I'll just close the doors and walk
and
away
be done.
And be done.
Yeah.
Oh my
Good
gosh!
for you.
And so
Good for
through
you.
that, you create an ability to be wildly philanthropic and get involved in so many causes that are meaningful to you. And again, I've been on empowerment of women since my life, and also cancer research, but now it's amped up. And that is creating, I've done lots of board service, like 15 different boards, but I decided I wanted only nonprofit boards in my later life because they're so pure, and the people that surround them are so, give back minded and altruistic and abundance. And so you get to kind of decide on this free and open type thing. I was just talking to a network that's one of these global networks that is just wanting, the whole intent is to leave the world a better place. And I'm like, yes, sign me up for that. Because that's how, I think we have a limited time, to be here, and we can make this experience anything we want, even when you have children and even when you have a husband, and that, it is your one journey. Like, this is your chance to, and I have created my whole life. It's not been an accident. It's just that I have an ability to take risks, as we started with, right? I'm not afraid to say, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm making a change. And the commitment to do that kind of on a dime and not be afraid of the repercussions means just, it's like a high level of trust in self. I've never failed at anything. I'm going to make it. I don't know. And every single thing is a learning, so to me, I've never learned more than having to scale up and introduce Pink at that concert. Like, seriously, I have to just go a little bit more into detail about what actually did happen, because we're back to the beginning. They made me come the night before and speak to the open stadium. And I completely blanked out. I've been speaking for a living my whole career. I'm really good at this. And nothing was in my head. And I went home and thought to myself, this is going to be an absolute disaster. I have to do this talk in front of 30,000 people. So I stood out on my open balcony and talked to the city of San Diego lights like 1,000 times. Didn't sleep at all that night. Called my producer in the morning and said, I need a teleprompter. She said, it's too late. Have you worked with a teleprompter? I go, not too much, but I can do it. She goes, no, you'd have to come down here all day. You're going to be fine. And yeah, I rocked it.
Wow.
I rocked it. It was amazing. But like, the challenging yourself at every stage and moment of your life to learn new things, to me, life is, and this is why being untethered is so hot. We're just all about growth, learning, and experiences. Just keep on challenging yourself with something you've never done. Give it a go. What's the worst thing that can happen? And do it in parallel to your other stuff. I mean, you don't have to. You can do all of this in whatever framework you find yourself in. You just have to think about, like, if your life is exhausting you, all these little pieces can be hired because you're the value. Anything, if you can make more money than it costs you to hire it, you have to hire it. And I've known that since I was a 5-year-old. I would say to my mom, she'd go, you're not even making your bed. You never know how to cook. No one's going to hire you. I go, Mom, I'm going to hire someone for that. When I was 5, this is a hilarious story. And it's true. There are people who make a living based on doing services for you. So build a little team around yourself. And this is Team Robin, the people who I can't live without. The only thing I know I'm really good at is working really, really hard. I don't cook. I don't clean. I don't take care of children. I just love, making the biggest contribution that I can make. And there are people for the rest of it, and they become your team, just like any performer on the road has their little team around them. That's the thing. Get your team. Robin.
Absolutely. If you have just a few moments, I have 2 things that I'd love to do left if we can.
Yes.
But I do have this question because I think it's really important. And the difference between taking care of yourself and being selfish. Because people feel that you are being selfish, and I don't feel one bit when I'm on my calendar where I need to say I need to do this or whatever. And I will tell you, I'm probably going to get some haters for saying this, but there are people that have children and they need to go pick them up at school and do what they need to do and so forth, and that's great. So that is your time to take care of yourself. That's not being selfish by putting time on your calendar so you can take care of yourself. That is not being selfish at all, in my opinion. And I'd love to hear your thoughts, because there's this big distinction I feel when I talk to, and especially women, that there's this selfishness.
No. Okay. So I can't say this more strongly enough. This is the definition of boosting your immune system and self-love. Like, you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of others. You have to put your oxygen mask on first. And self-care, self-love is a requirement in order to be the strongest and best version of yourself and to not get sick. And so you just need to put it on the calendar. Honestly, 1 to 2 hours per day, 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening. Carve it out. Your husband has to be a partner with you on this, and you need this time to go for a run, to walk the dog, to, zen, do meditation, whatever it is. It keeps you strong. I personally get a massage every single week because it circulates your immune system, and that is a health factor. I never get sick. Never get sick. So we have to realize this immune system is in charge. It's our barrier against the world and to all disease. And I call disease dis-ease. So if you're walking around in dis-ease, you're going to get sick.
Yeah, and I just want to piggyback on that for just a moment, because there are, someone could be listening going, well, I can't afford yoga, or I can't afford this, or I can't afford to do these extra things. But as you said, a walk is free.
Wow.
Breathing is free. Running is free. There's lots of things. There's a ton of free YouTube videos that you could do yoga and buy a mat. It's not necessarily you need to go somewhere. So what you're saying is really important. And I want people to know that there are tons of things, even during COVID time, we weren't able to go out and about, and everyone was being able to create their own Zen spaces or workout spaces in their homes.
Exactly. I did, ever since the pandemic, I've done yoga every single day at home, like every single day, because it changed my whole body and changed my whole life. So just get a recording of something that you like and just keep doing the same practice. It's crazy. It never gets easy.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, but that's an hour out of your day. And if you're going to tell me
it.
you can't afford an hour for yourself, I'm very sad.
Yes.
I'm very sad, because I think you're going to have to figure that out. Like, find the hour in your day and put it on the calendar every day.
I think that's part of that
mental.
I think that's part of the mental journey that I think we have to go through in order to realize that this is something that we really need to do. This isn't a luxury thing. This is a health and taking care of our mind, body, and soul moment.
Yeah,
that's
totally.
really important.
And
really
just
important.
Don't forget, I get up at 4:30 every day in order to squeeze that in. Like, that's the thing, right? I am not shorting myself, and that's been going on for my life. I will not stop that, because that's my personal time.
Yeah,
before everybody
absolutely.
else comes in.
Yeah, 100%. And I do those things for myself as well. So I'm happy to hear that. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't anything left that you wanted to bring up, or we can go right into Ask Dr. Alison.
Ask Dr. Alison. I'm wondering, having done podcasting as long as you have, first of all, I'm glad that you set this up. But what's the greatest awareness that you've taken away from this, podcasting journey that you've been on so far? And I know it probably changes daily, but where are you at today?
I would say where I'm at today is I didn't realize the change in impact I was providing to my guests. I didn't realize that at all. And the reason why I say that is I thought at first this was going to be a podcast where executives would, talk about, the things that keep them up late at night and what drives their business and things of that nature. But the personal twists and turns that my guests have incorporated into their stories, and how they're helping other high-level executive women or entrepreneurs or founders or people who just woke up and said, I have this amazing dream, and hearing the support from not only myself, but my leaders that are bringing out to those people, I just think it's been incredible. And I've had, in fact, I was talking to a good friend of mine this week, and she said, you need to start giving yourself more credit, because you're bringing that out in your guests, and you're bringing that out into the world. And that, I think, I've been hearing it, but I don't think it really digested fully for me. And
That's so true, Alison.
Yeah.
The questions you ask prompt the intelligence that you're able to share to other people, and that's absolutely the truth. I've done a lot of podcasts, but yours is special.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I loved it. And I actually, my reflecting on it is, you started this because it started like a fun project, not realizing, and it was a fun project for you to learn and grow, not realizing how much it would change people's lives. And that's fantastic.
Thank you. Yes, there are some big plans for this show and other things that I hope and I'm in the process of creating that can just be really impactful for people. So yeah, that it has really shown, and I think you mentioned this before, that I'm seeing this in a big life moment. And that's what I feel that I'm doing.
The big life moment. You got to go for the big life.
Yeah.
So, for all of your viewers, I just want everybody to be fearless, committed, and wide open, and just go for the big life. Like stop playing small.
Yeah. Awesome. Robin, thank you for ending on that for sure. And a huge thank you again to Robin Toft. Thank you so much for sharing your unconventional journey, your passion, everything you're doing in regards to cancer research with CureBound. Really, thank you. And for all of you listening to the show today or watching, if this episode spoke to you, please follow and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so we can keep these conversations going.